One of our top stories. Joining us here in the studio is outgoing Customs Commissioner Ruffy Biazon. Good evening,
Good
Commissioner
evening, Pia.
Biazon.
Yeah, good
Welcome
evening.
to Solar Network News.
Thank you.
May delikadesa daw kayo. Hindi raw kayo kapit-tuko.
That's the opinion of some.
But what made you decide that you would just resign?
Well, one, that was the first thing on my mind after the press con of the SOJ. One, I knew that it would become a magnet of controversy for the president if I stayed on. I wanted to avoid a situation where my stay would become a problem for the president.
Na kailangan siya magdepensa sa inyo.
Yes.
Instead of you guys, the
Yes,
president's
because
men protecting him.
the role of presidential appointees is, aside from doing their jobs, is to protect the president. Second, I wanted to protect my family from the trouble of having to endure such a prolonged public discussion. And third, I knew that it would be used by my opponents in my job as commissioner to derail my efforts and reduce the potency of the reform initiatives that we're doing. So I decided to quit the post.
When you said you want to protect your family from the controversy and all the criticism, this was something that you spoke about with your wife.
It was
And
just
your kids.
my own decision. I'm sorry. It was just my own decision because I knew the impact it would have on my kids.
How old are they now?
My eldest is 22. The next one is 13, 10, and then 7. In fact, my 22-year-old was already asking some questions, and I caught my 13-year-old trying to sneak a glance at the newspaper. So I knew that if I stayed, there would be a prolonged discussion on this, and I did not want them to have to go through that.
Okay, and of course that would mean that they would be exposed to, well, in school, for example, no?
Yes,
and outside the house.
Yes.
It would be really bad, I guess.
It's really tough for the kids. So iniwasan ko na yun para
Okay.
matapos na yung usapan.
Someone, I read on Twitter, someone was saying you are truly the son of Pong. What advice did your father give you? And when did you speak to him?
I only spoke to him after I submitted the letter, actually, last night. Before that, when I made the decision, it was purely my own. I did call him up, but I already had something in my mind. Over the weekend, because that was Friday when I made that decision to myself, I was kind of getting affirmation from friends, family on my decision. A lot of them said, "Don't quit because this is the time that you can stand up for your rights. You're innocent. There are no cases filed. These are just complaints." So actually, I was trying to find affirmation of the decision to quit. But many had said, no, people might interpret that as you're being guilty.
Okay.
But I think it was the right thing to do. So I settled for that decision.
I asked about what your father's advice to you was because he said something interesting yesterday. He was saying that para bang on the eve of the filing, para bang nasingit ata yung pangalan nyo?
Well,
Totoo ba yun?
let's just sabihin na natin na we are all emotional about this, no? And so there are some information that's passed around na may mga ganun, no? So but I think we should be more sober on this, no? And just treat that as information.
Okay. Okay.
When we deal with the issue of the complaint filed, we just face it in the venue, the proper venue. So we were all emotional at that time, but once things have settled down, you distinguish what is just information and what is fact. So with that, we will not say that that is our suspicion, but it is just the information that went around. But now we're setting it aside and just focusing on preparing for the case if it gets filed.
Okay, you said you made your decision to resign last Friday. Was that a decision that was ironclad, or was it I'm making a decision to resign, and when I go before the president, if he tells me not to resign, then I won't resign? Or was it, I am going to hand in my irrevocable resignation?
Well, let's say at that point, Friday, I was about 80% resigned. And then of course, I still had to consult family and friends. And that's what I heard. They say, you don't have to resign. There's no complaint. It's just a complaint. Innocent until proven guilty. But as Monday drew nearer, the level of confidence in the decision went higher and higher. Such that when I went to the president, that was what I had in mind. In fact, when we started our conversation, I immediately told him that, sir, the first thing on my mind is to resign.
Then what did he say right away? Because
Well,
our story earlier is that he said you either resign or take a leave. So ano ba talaga?
It's like this, no? Kasi ito lang ang medyo na-frustrate ako, no, in all of these things. Kasi the manner of reporting ko minsan medyo na no.
Okay.
So, yung context nung sinabi ni Presidente doon, no? Kasi pagkasabi ko na ang first thing on my mind is to resign, sinundan ko na kagad ng explanation ko why. And then followed by my thoughts on the complaint filed. No? He was basically listening to my thoughts. No? Then, nung sinabi ko yung resignation nga, we talked a little bit more, and then parang, kumbaga, he threw in
that other option.
Sabi lang niya, resign or leave. Parang ganun.
Take a leave.
He was not asking me to, or he was not, hindi niya ako pinapadesisyon na ito ang option mo. Hindi ganun yun, ang context nun.
Okay.
Parang siguro he was just clarifying what my ideas were. Because sinabi ko na kagad from the beginning nga, na resign. So I don't think, that set the tone. Opening salvo ko pa lang, sinabi ko, sir, the first thing on my mind is resign.
Yeah, okay. And so you ended with that also, and then he agreed?
Yes, I submitted to him the paper. No? And then, of course, he read it, and he even asked about the ages of my sons. So, siguro that he also understood my position, no? Kung bakit yun ang naging decision ko. Kasi, principally, it's the effect on my kids.
Okay. Would you risk everything for 2 million pesos?
Risk, sabi nga, nothing is worth, no, yung, I had a quote there, no, yung, a good name is more esteemed than riches or gold, no? So, in the end, talagang nung pumasok ako sa BOC, yan nga yung aking ginawang quote, no, sa aking inaugural speech. And in my resignation speech, I also ended it with that, no? Because that has a premium for me.
All right. Thank you very much. Outgoing Customs Commissioner Ruffy Biazon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
And these are the